Somewhere right now, an HR team is manually updating a spreadsheet that should have been automated years ago. If that's you, Shapes is here to put an end to that. Shapes is the workforce platform for the AI era. Agents handle the routine, and you handle the people. Find them at shapes.co.
Welcome to I Hate It Here, the podcast for HR and people professionals, making the hardest job in the world just a little bit easier. I'm Hiba Youssef.
And so the reason that's motivating is not only like everyone on the team is already bought into the mission, they work there, but it also creates space for someone to look at their work and go, what is the problem in front of me? And is AI helpful or is it not relevant to this problem?
Hello, your favorite show is on, aka the I Hate It Here podcast. It's me, Hiba, your favorite hater and very passionate HR person who will be incredibly unhinged today. This season, we are deep in the HR evolution, which is really just me refusing to let this job stay stuck in anything pre-2020. Honestly, I just don't want this job stuck in anything at any time. So this season, of course, we have to talk about AI, but not the will AI take my job panic, the actual uncomfortable question of who is in the room when your company decides to bolt AI onto hiring, performance reviews, headcount decisions, and is that even ethical? Well, that brings me to today's convo. I'm joined by someone I've admired for so long, knew from the internet before I knew her in real life, and might have lightly stalked her in a not threatening way, Aubrey Blanche. Aubrey has spent years building equitable people systems at places like Atlassian and Culture. She's the founder and CEO of The Math Path, where she helps organizations do value-aligned people and tech transformations. Not just that, like if that wasn't enough, she's also doing an actual master's in AI ethics and society at Cambridge. So that makes her the perfect guest for today and someone I can be really unhinged with. Aubrey, welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. I told you I was going to make it weird and it took 2 seconds. Also, just so everyone knows, I stalked you, and when we met IRL at Transform, I was completely not normal.
And me neither. I was like, oh my God, do you think she knows who I am? Oh my God, do you think she knows who I am? Like, I was such a weirdo.
Yeah, it was great. We were the strangest people. And I was like, oh, is this just what happens when the neurodivergents get together? It's great.
Whenever people meet me in person, they're like, you're so much like yourself on the internet, and you in person are the same. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing.
I don't know. Like, I'm quite an aligned person, so I'm like very similar, I think, to how people imagine me. Like, I just don't, like, filtering and masking are not my strengths. Yeah, which has both gotten me jobs and also gotten me shit canned from jobs. And so, yeah, now, I work at a nonprofit in Sydney, but I run my own business as well because my special interest is my job. But yeah, I'm still kind of in people and culture, but I was like just deeply concerned about the nonsense that's happening around AI. And I was like, oh, I'm good at tech. Like, I can help with this. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up where I am today.
The nonsense is so wild. Honestly, the nonsense train I'm on, the other day my power cut, and the first thing I said was, it's the data centers. And then I was like, it's AI. And I was like, me, after I had already prompted Claude to do something, then me complaining about Claude. So it was a very good time.
Yeah. Data center. There's this great op-ed in the New York Times by Tressie Cotton who talks about like data centers might be the one issue that will unite people like across party lines in the US. It's just like, they're not cool. And I think this will be the theme of everything we talk about today. So I want to like foreground it, which is we don't have to do it this way.
Ooh, what an excellent...
Don't have to do it this way. So with that, I'll actually let you get to the questions that you asked. Okay. But like, that's what you're going to hear from me a lot is like, we have other options than what is being told to us is the way to go. Like, we have choices.
I'm into that. Okay, but first you have to answer the question that I'm asking every guest this season, which is what's something about how you work now that would have surprised you 5 years ago?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I do think it's the level of technical work that I'm doing now that I actually really like. So I've spent my whole career in really engineering heavy companies in tech. So I've always like liked building and I've done some product management work, but like I'm now like starting to use the terminal and using local AI on my machine for like ethical reasons. And I actually like my brain is quite delighted by it. And I always thought I couldn't figure it out on my own. And I've had some lovely people who have sat with me and just given me a little bit of encouragement. And so like, I'm shocking myself at how capable I am.
Yeah, like there was ever any doubt in my mind. It's really
Okay,
fun.
well, there were many in my brain.
I'm like, everyone can figure it out. And then when people are like, how do you figure
Totally.
these things out? I'm like, you can also like, I don't know, Google. That's how I figure out a lot of things.
Yeah. And now, like, again, we can talk about my like very deep unease with like frontier AI, but so much of like Claude Code is the thing I'm learning on because it's kind of got some training wheels. But the fact that I can like ask it how to do the thing and ask it to teach me while I'm learning how to use it also goes back to my other theme, which is there are ways to use AI that don't rot your brain, and there are ways to use AI that do. And again, that's a set of choices that we can make, even within kind of sketchy power structures that are kind of disincentivizing that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've gone from DEI and equitable design leadership to full on AI ethics, including you're getting a master's. You're going back to school for it. What was the moment that was like, I need to go formally study this and not just like learn it via osmosis, like we do a lot of things in HR?
So, two things. One, I love school more than anyone has any right to. Like, I actually had to sit down out of pure joy about the course outline that I'm taking in the next term. Like I was physically overwhelmed with joy at how amazing the professor is. So like I just love learning and I love going to school, and like being a nerd is the most self-actualized version of me. But the secondary reason was because like as like corporate America has decided that like anyone who would benefit from DEI just doesn't matter anymore. And so we're going to cut all the programs. A lot of DEI folks have pivoted into AI ethics. Like I'm not unique in that way, but I think the same problem that I always had with the field exists. And that's that there's no, like, I'm not for fancy credentials for credentials' sake. I think it's really elitist. But the reality is that a contributing factor to why DEI in many cases was not successful in organizations is because the practitioners didn't have rigorous training in the skills that they needed to actually be successful in the roles. So a lot of companies picked people who were the right color with passion for social justice and put them in executive roles. And that's not fair to them because you actually need stakeholder management, change management, data analysis skills to do that. And so for me, it was actually part of an ethical obligation that like if I'm going to position myself in this space, I need to have a rigorous bit of training so that I can actually be effective at helping organizations do the things I care about, which is if you're going to implement AI, there are ways to do it in human-centered ways that protect people. And I think to get paid and to have impact in the world, need to be really confident in my own ability to actually help people do that. So for me, it's both. And I think it's positioning. Like there's a lot of people that are saying AI ethics, and because people don't know what it means, it helps me have credibility with buyers so that I can run my business. Like that's just kind of practical. But the motivation is I love learning and I want to be really good at my job.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, don't never forget when you told me you were getting your master's, I was like, can you send me what books you're reading? Like, I was like, I want to know what you're
Oh,
also
yeah.
reading because I am a nerd.
We'll put it in the show notes. I have my AI ethics reading list, which is
Love.
very specifically curated. It's women of color, it's queer and disabled scholars, it's folks from the global south. So
Yeah.
really people who I think see and name power and harm in ways that kind of more centralized folks don't. But it's on my website, but I'll send you the link and then
Please.
folks can dive into that. And there's links for bookshop.org and international stuff because we support independent bookstores
love
when we learn
bookshop.org.
about AI ethics.
One time at the very beginning of my newsletter, I was linking to Amazon and someone wrote it and was like, I know you better than to link to Amazon. You better be linking to bookshop.org. And I was like, I didn't even know about bookshop.org back then. And now all of my links go to bookshop.org.
Yeah.
Because they buy from like local bookshops, right?
Totally. And also, this is just a little plug for my favorite bookstore. It's called Paperbacks and Fry Bread, and they have the most amazing curation. It's a Lumbee woman in, I think, North Carolina. But the paper books, you can also subscribe through Libro FM and through Kobo to like buy from her. And so I do that. So even if it's a book that she doesn't particularly carry, if I do audiobooks or digital books for my Kobo, not my Kindle, I buy through her. So anyway, Danielle at Paperbacks and Fry Bread is my favorite, and you should buy from her.
Love that. I love a good recommendation. I also don't have a Kindle anymore. I have a Books device, like Boox, which is like an Android device that runs on it still runs on Android. It's like, I mean, you're picking and choosing, but you can download different apps, and it makes it a lot easier to read my Harry Potter fanfics. So
we have talked about this.
not the podcast.
I'm not going to talk about which Harry Potter fanfics we talk about.
Yeah, I've told everybody on this podcast, if you are listening.
I think this was one of the moments when I realized you were my kind of weird.
I was I'd be reading
also,
these fanfics as a
just
woman.
For the record, if you're still on Meta Products, the person you should be following on Threads is the CEO of Kobo. He's the most delightful, lovely person, and all he wants to do is run a company that's great for readers. And yeah, it's just like, he seems to treat people really well. The products are really ethical. He walks around and just gives people love for reading. So anyway, we love that. Literacy, also something we can do different. Have it.
So we're declining because people aren't reading, okay? It is a very big worry of mine. If you follow me on social media, I'm always posting about how people are not reading, and it is disturbing to me as somebody who has read for over 1,200 straight days. So I'm on year 3 of reading every single day.
I mean, I often tell people that I'm a book dragon because, like a bookworm, eats through the books. I hoard them and I would lay on them they're my treasure.
Oh, wow. I do. I tell people this is not appropriate for this podcast, but I tell people I'm a book slut. So I'm reading multiple books at the same time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know
Be polyamorous with your reading.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe I need to change that to, instead of book slut, being polyamorous with my reading, because I'm always reading multiple things. People are like, what are you reading right now? And I'm like, I have 5 books going. I
think 5 is very restrained and reasonable.
Yeah, there's 16 fanfics and a list.
Because you never know what vibes you you need a book, but your vibes might be different from hour to hour. You need many options.
I was on a business podcast once and they're like, hey, so what are you reading? And I was like, oh, hockey romances. And this was the series that got turned into Off Campus, which everyone is obsessed with right now, that I had read all 16 books that were out at the time in a haze of 2 weeks. I read every single thing that this woman had written. And then now it's the Off Campus show. But on the business podcast, it's two cousins. And I was to their men, and I was I'm reading hockey romances. And they were like, is that a thing? Are you learning a lot about hockey? And I was like, no. There's a first line and a second line. That's all I know. That's not why I'm reading these books. And I was I need to be better when I'm on business podcasts to have a mature answer.
You know what? I actually disagree with that in the sense that one, my bookshelves are out in my living room so that people can see what I read, because I want people to walk into my house and be like, this is who I am. This is the book I keep on my coffee table.
Okay, I don't have that one. I need to get this book.
It's really good. I got it at Paperbacks and Fry Bread. The other one is Cory Doctorow's new book about why AI is going to eat the world. Because I'm doing a panel with him next month in Sydney, which is AI Nerd Dream. But I literally leave books out so that when people come to my house, it communicates these are my values. Because this is the information I choose to consume. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think about that actually, since we were supposed to talk about HR, is
yes.
No. But I actually think it matters. One, being a reader matters. Even if you're reading smut, one, that's regulating. So congratulations, because being in HR is not a regulating experience. But just the idea that you are training your brain to focus on something for long periods of time, regardless of what the content is, I actually think is really radical in this moment. And a part of what I would say is my AI ethics practice. I buy paper books. I buy them from retailers that I want to support economically. And I try to read at least a chapter a day, literally to preserve my brain, because everything coming out of the tech industry wants to degrade my already trash fire executive functioning and all of my critical thinking. And so, yeah, I say that reading books, regardless of what they are, pick something you love, pick something that you like. I like to read dense academic books. I
go through phases. I go through romance. Right now I'm on a historical romance kick. So I'll read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. I tell people I grew up reading. I think I do this job today in HR. And I think all of it started because I was simply so enamored with different people's experiences growing up. I was always reading. I was reading these weird historical books. They were gold. I can't remember what they were called. I just looked them up on eBay because I really wanted to buy them. And they were historical stories about people in history. Obviously, I just said historical stories, but I was like obsessed with like the Anastasia one. And there was like a Catherine the Great one. And I was like forever reading these. And my mom was like, just let her read the books. Like I had no bedtime. I just read books every day. I would take them with me everywhere I went. I had a little suitcase of books that I was allowed to take in the car with us on road trips. It was out of control. Anyways, this episode's not about reading, but you can come back for an episode about reading.
But I actually think, like, to loop it back, to engage your critical thinking skills, reading is actually, I think, if you're in HR and you don't read, I think you can't do your job. And whatever, like, whether it's listening or like audiobook, like, I'm not into the weird ableist bullshit of like audiobooks not reading. They are, like, long form podcasts are reading. But the reason I say that is because reading, one, gives us critical thinking, but two, also gives us a window into the experiences that other humans have in the world. And even those of us, like I think you and I both try to be really equity and like justice aware and aware of our privilege and the way other people might have different experiences. But reading is the fastest way to understand how other people experience the world. And I don't believe that you can work in HR and not have deep care and awareness of that, because you can't build things that work for people if you're not trying to understand them. So I actually think this is super material. It's just that we don't talk about it because we're often talking about like
performance management,
FMLA or performance management. But like as humans, if we want to treat humans well, we have to invest in our own humanity, which I think reading is one of the best tools for that. And as long as you like what you're reading and you're trying to expose yourself to new ideas in whatever way makes sense for you, like that checks the box. I think there's a million ways to do that correctly.
Hell yeah. Also, please come back for a whole other episode on reading and critical thinking in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we do that? And also if folks, another plug for someone that I love is Shay Omanijo, who's a Harvard PhD candidate who runs a pod called Critical Thinking in the Age of AI, also has a Substack that I love.
Ooh.
So that's someone who really influences me in terms of how, and also has an amazing guide on local AI for folks who want to get off the frontier models. Pay her for her stuff. She's great. But yeah, someone that I look up to and I follow and I'm really influenced by in terms of how I think about relating to this tech as an individual, and then how I help organizations implement it as well.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the premise itself. Like, why is productivity become the stated goal for AI adoption?
I think there's two reasons. One is it perfectly fits the capitalist narrative. So like, it's the thing that capitalism would like is like, make more stuff with less people because that's a better margin on the P&L. Now, the thing that I tell people is two things. One, the research that shows that you will get a productivity jump if you implement AI is thin to non-existent. Like that narrative is mostly written by product marketing departments who have an incentive for you to believe it so you buy their stuff, a product which is artificially priced low right now. Like I'll send you for the show notes an op-ed from an Australian publication, but it's relevant to everybody here, is that like token prices are super low. It's the Uber play. And so they are telling you that so that you implement AI, lay off your workforce, and then they're going to jack up the prices because you're dependent on those tools and you're completely vendor locked in. And that's how they make their venture funding returns. So all of that to say, there are actually ways to implement AI that do get you to benefits, but by making productivity the goal, I can nearly guarantee that you are not going to get there. And also your people are not going to go on the journey with you, because it's not very motivating to be like, do more stuff so that we can give bonuses to our executives. Like people don't want to do that.
Yeah, people are also just like tired. I don't want to do no more stuff. I've done enough stuff. I would like to do the normal amount of stuff in a day.
But so here's an alternative like vision, right? So this is the Ethics Center, which is the nonprofit I'm a director at in Sydney. In addition to the work I do in my own business, we are going through a 6-month AI adoption program right now. And when we started, with the staff, we said our objective is to adopt AI in ways that help us meaningfully move forward our mission, which is to bring ethics to the center of everyday life. And so the reason that's motivating is not only like everyone on the team has already bought into the mission, they work there, but it also creates space for someone to look at their work and go, what is the problem in front of me? And is AI helpful or is it not relevant to this problem? And if it is relevant, what are the ways that I preserve myself and move towards the mission? So it actually creates the space for individuals to do the critical thinking that's necessary. But it also means that folks are doing something. So maybe making more stuff, which is what productivity is the right answer to a particular problem. So productivity becomes one tool in the toolbox, but refusal might be a tool, or completely redesigning the way work happens might be a tool, or just deciding not to do something because it doesn't drive the mission forward or it doesn't treat people well is also an option. And so the amount of pushback I get when I work with organizations and we say, the objective is value creation for customers, or it's building great experiences for employees. People are like, oh, I can see why I would be on board with that. You're not just trying to automate me out of a job. So, like, it's kind of a duh thing, but people are so trapped in this like economic productivity argument that they can't see all of the reasons that they're dooming themselves to fail.
When people bring up the productivity argument, my first response is always like, ugh. Like, bleh. That's like I talk to candidates about it because we're like incredibly AI friendly at Work Week. And we have never been like, we're trying to replace you or we're trying to get you to do more work. The thing that we keep saying is like, we're trying to automate the things that like, you don't need to be spending your time on so you can think about way more important stuff.
Totally. If you tell people that you value their expertise and that you want to teach them how to use the tools to expand their creative potential, to help them do work that they're not specialized in. So like something for me, because part of my job is like partnerships, which is basically sales, is like I have shit all design skills. Like I'm really bad at making stuff pretty. And I know that. And like when I was at a big company, there were designers who could help me with that. At an 18-person nonprofit, I don't have a designer who has time to help me. But the polish of the deck that I'm sending to a potential partner has a huge impact on the revenue that we bring in that helps us deliver ethical decision-making training to organizations. So for me, being able to speed up making my content I think is compelling into something that looks professional, that actually does that. But there's ethical trade-offs in that, which I can talk about that like are very front of mind for me. But that's my decision making is like, this is a thing I'm not great at that also me learning to do well would have marginal positive impact. Whereas building my relationships to help corporate executives behave more ethically, that's actually a really positive thing in the world. And AI helps me do that a bit more effective and be the human in that part of it.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that ethical piece. I think we're going to get to that. I have a question about that later. But first, before I get there, when a company does go we're using AI to be efficient route, what questions do you think HR should be asking that almost never get asked?
Yeah, so I think like what I'm seeing work well is to talk about, cool, what are the limits of that? And let's talk about what trade-offs might come with that as an approach. So I really believe like the way I work is really grounded in like consent and agency of executives. I think part of that is because being, like in the head of diversity role at Atlassian or kind of running people ops and ESG at Culture Amp, like you don't have the power to like veto a CEO, but what you do have the power to do is make sure the decisions they're making are fully informed. And so, like, you can make the decision, you have the power and the right to do that, but I'm going to tell you all the real trade-offs so that you can't say that you didn't know it was coming. So, like, you own your impact and I own mine, but I say, like, have you considered the trade-offs of that as a priority? And I just want to make sure we're opting into those. So, one, the research says that that's not a super effective way to drive value for the business. So I want to make sure that we think that that's the right strategy is, prioritizing something that doesn't have a lot of research that says it works. But also, we know that that tends to promote backlash amongst employees. It tends to create legal liability. And so I just want to make sure we're fully aware of the risks before we engage with it. And I rarely have an exec who's like, yeah, I'm all down for that. But like, so that's it, is just like, hey, I'm just letting you know the risks. You own the decision and I can execute whatever you decide.
That was a master class in how to talk to executives because they For the longest time early in my career, I could not communicate well with executives. They just irritated the living shit out of me. I just wanted to be like, hello, are you paying attention to the very thing I'm asking you to do? Like, use your thought. Now I do your approach where I'm like, let's talk about the trade-offs, the risks. Like, I'm not trying to strong arm them into anything. I'm trying to like give them all the reasons around it so they feel like they have agency over the decision that I've been slowly guiding them to.
Absolutely. Like to be honest, like I'm a critical theorist who's like, people are like, oh, you're such a social justice warrior. I'm like, oh, I feel so seen. Thank you. Is like, but when I talk to, and again, my clients are obviously like values aligned organizations. So in general, these are leaders who want to do the right thing, but they don't always have the tools or the knowledge to align their intentions with the impact of the decisions they're making. And so for me, I think the most important thing I can do is like just lay all the facts on the table and let them look at them. But that means that a lot of the language I use is I talk about enterprise risk management. I talk about legal liability. And I think this is something that flat down DEI and now AI ethics is that like the science of motivation and like influence, if you are trying to influence someone, you need to speak their language. It's actually not very effective. And honestly, I will call it morally and intellectually masturbatory to demand that people do things aligned to your values. Like, do I wish everybody would just make decisions aligned to human rights because it's the right thing to do? I do. I wish that. But the reality is, my ethical framework is that I'm accountable for the impact I have in the world. And if I know that I'm less likely to get executives to make human-centered decisions if I only speak my language, to me, that's not the right choice. I won't tell other people what their choice is, but I will offer that for me, the reason I learn how to translate and I learn how to influence and communicate that way is because my dedication is to actually moving organizations to structurally realign themselves. And so my work is the emotional and intellectual labor of translating my values so that my values actually get implemented instead of me just feeling good about my own ethical purity.
Oh, that's such a good point. I always joke that like I do not manipulate for evil, I manipulate for good. So it's like really what I'm trying to say is like I'm trying to influence the right thing to happen, but I just learned so early on that like me strong arming how I feel about something or like my values about something, the thing never got across the line. It never got won, I never got the buy-in. And I think like you're so right, talking the language of someone you're trying to secure, it makes them feel seen. And they're more likely then to say yes to you about the thing that you want them to say yes to you about.
And I guess my thing is I'm like, look, as long as we're all on the same train, I actually don't care that we bought a ticket for different reasons.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Because I try to be really low control with other people. And so that's it. I'm like, hey, we're all on the train. Let's go to the next stop together.
I kind of love that. I'm going to start thinking about that. I sometimes have control issues.
I mean, like my instinct is like I want to control things.
Same.
And for me, it's like, but my values say that I value like interacting with other people in a consensual way. I really value human agency and accountability. And so I have to let it go.
Yeah. That's actually I'm going to take that with me for today. I have to let it go. It's so interesting though, because like everyone, when we rolled out this big AI stuff and we're still rolling it out and we're still figuring it out, everyone keeps talking about like human in the loop, right? Like there has to be, first of all, who invented that phrase? I don't know. I'm going to have to go find out who did.
I don't know.
Now it's said all the time. There's always got to be a human in the loop. We always make sure there's a human in a loop, but it feels like potentially like it's slowly, the loop is disappearing. And even a company says like, there's a human in the loop. It's like, wait a minute, but AI is still making a decision. It's not making any decisions at work week, to be clear.
Let's be honest. Most HR tech was built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. Shapes was built for this one. It's the HRIS for the AI era, where AI agents run the routine work alongside your team the way all effective AI integrations are intended. You get a secure HR core. Everything's connected to live org data and a vibe studio where you can build any people tool you need just by typing it out in plain English. If your systems feel stuck in 2015, go check out Shapes at shapes.co.
This is actually like the focus of my current research at Cambridge around what we call decision support systems. So I'm Yeah, I'm studying the use of automated targeting in Iran, so it's slightly different because if folks don't know, before I was DEI, I was security studies. My previous special interest was Middle Eastern politics and US defense contracting. But I think the efficiency and productivity argument actually crushes the human in the loop, and I want to talk about that. So this is a conversation in kind of military AI, but I think it's actually also most important to HR. So funny that I have that background in that the human in the loop is this like mythical creature that apparently just makes decisions. And it's kind of proposed as this governance solution to automated decision making. But if you actually look into the literature about kind of oversight and accountability and the human in the loop, what you see is there's actually a lot of complex conditions under which a human actually performs oversight. And part of that is that when you're going for efficiency or productivity, you're often giving a human so many decisions in such a short amount of time that there is no physical way for them to actually make a decision. Like that's what's happened in a lot of military use of AI, where, there's a famous example where someone was given like 72 targeting decisions in an hour. And so that person had less than a
What?
second to, right. And so in theory, a human pushed the button that sent a bomb that killed people, but that person might as well have not existed. In the case I'm looking at, the data that informed the decision was over 10 years stale and incorrect. And so someone was told that something was an appropriate target that wasn't, and a bunch of people died. But when you think about that in an HR context, it's like there's a lawsuit happening right now where with Meta saying that people who took leave were targeted for layoffs. There was probably a human who looked at that list, but my question would be, how much time did they have to dig into the data, to dig into the source of what the model was doing in terms of the recommendations it was making? There's some interesting legislation coming out of Colorado that's actually trying to put into law what must be true for a human to legally qualify as having actual oversight responsibility. And so I think the law is catching up to all of this fuckery.
I was about
Oh,
to
sorry.
say,
I don't know
yeah.
if I can swear on your pod.
You can definitely swear. I say
okay.
worse.
But like I think that's it. My co-host on my pod, Cara
Yeah.
Bombell. So we have a podcast called The Babes. It's about AI and power. There's a HR issue episode that I can share.
Please.
But she talks about what we need to talk about is the human at the helm.
Mm.
And I love the language so communicates that the human is in control. And to me, that means you need to know how the model, like that person needs to know how a model makes decisions, what factors it takes into account. It has the ability to understand the source of anything that's been provided to it, and also needs to have the appropriate expertise and time to adjudicate and consider the decisions. And again, what I will say, going back to my theme, is that we can do that differently. So a lot of people are worried about algorithmic bias. So like a lot of people are like shortlisting candidates with AI because the application volumes have gone up. But you can choose to program a model such that it actually surfaces more non-traditional candidates to you. Like that's a design decision that you can make. And so I just like offer that so much of the bad things that are happening with AI are design decisions that humans are making. They're not all, some of them are, but not all of them are inherent issues with the tech.
Yeah, no, I would agree. But how would you then respond to like an ATS that ranks the candidates using AI with based on criteria for the job that you've written?
Right. So I would say, like, when I'm coming in to work with a client on that, I'm like, okay, I get you have applicant volume, but like you need to do this somehow. So let's sit down and talk about the underlying context of what the model is selecting for. But let's also look at the human process of what determines what goes into the requirements that you're looking for. So we actually need to look at the human process that's the input to the model. Then we look at the model. Then let's also look at the output. How is that ranking surfaced? Can you dig in, and does the model provide a justification? Does the model provide the human multiple options to select from so they're still working their decision-making muscle so that doesn't degrade over time? If a candidate asks why they were selected or rejected, does the model have an output that you can use? Because that's becoming increasingly a legal requirement that you will have to be able to do that. So So for me, again, that's why I say like the math path does people and tech transformation, because with AI, it is 20% technology and 80% humans and organizational process overhaul if you actually want to get any value out of it. So that's it. Like it's possible, but it's a very different design conversation than let's plug it in and shove it into the database. And the number one thing I just have to say, like, do not put resumes in your free ChatGPT account. Like it's legal violations, just like don't. But the number of people, this is my other critique. HR people are being asked to adopt AI in major ways, and organizations are not equipping them with the skills to do that safely. And sure, I think on one level, we should educate ourselves, but also I think organizations should be more accountable. And that's where a lot of my work is right now, is working with DEI and HR folks to actually just do kind of basic AI ethics skill development so that they have the skills they need to make decisions and to help organizations implement more safely. So in addition to doing like full consulting projects, a lot of what I do is training just to teach people what they need to know to do their jobs well in this age.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm hearing you talk about that just sparked something in my head. Like my fear is that we are setting up HR people to fail when it comes to AI. So then we have a scapegoat to basically blame the failure on.
Absolutely. And I think recruiting is at the front line of impact for this. Like people ops, so like the back end kind of part of HR and recruiting, I think get hit the hardest because they're quantifiable specialties in the sense that you can count tickets processed, you can count roles filled. And so that efficiency brain immediately kicks in. And you know, companies are saying, oh, we want to downsize the TA team, so we'll just automate. But the people often making those decisions, one, don't know about the legal liability that's underneath that. Like, I think using AI in HR, it's one of the first places that a lot of executives go, and it's the highest risk of legal liability. And I don't necessarily think that consideration outside of the ethics thing, like legal is the floor, ethics is kind of the ceiling. But yeah, so Bo-Young Lee, who just finished her dissertation, she's a year ahead of me at Cambridge in the same program as the CEO of AI for All, talks about this idea that we all need to be armchair AI ethicists right now. And she was making a broader point about humans. I think it is bordering on malpractice for HR people not to take that really seriously for themselves.
Yeah. What is like a specific AI ethics competency that HR people need that almost nobody is actually anyone's investing in or that anybody really has?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is to understand the difference between automation bias, cognitive offloading, and cognitive surrender. So automation bias, like humans tend to default to machines. When machines tell you something, we think it's objective and we tend to go with it.
Did I not tell you my theory? Sorry, this is my sick theory,
No,
and then we can get back to those three. I believe that Google Maps, when it suggests new routes for you to take, I never take the new route, and it always tells me the new route is going to shorten my time. I keep on my original route, and my original route always gets me home faster than the suggested route. And my sick theory is they're actually collecting all this data on how humans will listen to the machine and not second guess what the machine is telling them to do. So I always take my OG route.
I'm sorry, my tinfoil hat is on the other side of my apartment, so I can't put it on right now. But
is that a weird conspiracy theory?
No, not at all. I think that makes total sense. So, and one of the ways to like the best kind of block against automation bias is being an expert. So experts are less susceptible to automation bias.
Gotta go be an expert in Google Maps. I'm just kidding.
Well, so Google Maps is an example of cognitive offloading.
I'm genuinely kidding, Aubrey.
No, I know, but you made a beautiful bridge to my point. Okay. Amazing. We're on the same wavelength.
I did it.
But like cognitive offloading is where basically like I'm choosing not to use cognitive effort for something that isn't super value add. So like, but I'm accepting the trade-off that like my skill in that thing develops. So I have the worst sense of direction of anyone I know. So Google Maps, like, I'm not quite sure, like, you know, when people used to print out MapQuest, like, yeah. So I've just accepted that I have gotten worse at that because I rely on Google Maps, but I'm willing to make that trade-off. Cognitive surrender is where you basically just stop thinking at all and just default to machines. So it's just people who are churning out slop and not reading it and sending it to their coworkers or like making kind of shitty, but sending it to their managers. And so, and the thing is, research is showing that when you engage in cognitive surrender over time, you actually atrophy your cognitive abilities. So like you can't turn it back on after you've turned it off. And so that's what I would offer to HR folks is when you're redesigning workflows, when you're deploying this, are you optimizing for fake productivity in a way that one makes people miserable? Because like people that have to use AI for their jobs, like are being forced, often say they're looking for new work, like they want to quit. But also, are you making your employees so dumb that they can't do their jobs 18 months from now? So like they're either going to leave or not be able to do their jobs. And that's probably not like in the like it's not in the human's best interest, but it's also not in the business best interest. So that's the number one issue for me is like protect human agency and cognitive capacity. Like if that is your one design principle, you will get a lot more right than what kind of the mainstream narrative is pushing.
My second story to tell you is I one time went to this event like 3 years ago. It was so wild. They invited this like famous neuroscientist to talk. And the neuroscientist, I ended up sitting next to them. And I was like, first of all, how does this happen? I just was going to this random dinner in DC. And they told me that the more you rely on Google Maps or like a regular route, like you drive the same route every single day, is how you also cognitively decline. And so their instruction to me was like, take a different route, don't follow the GPS, always be taking different routes to work. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that just sparked in my head. I'm going to go find that and have to put that in the show notes.
I think that's right. So I would say the corollary to that, because like I didn't have any underlying skill in navigating, is try to do things every day that are novel to your brain. Like, so give your brain new problems to solve. So reading is great. Walking a different route to work or whatever, wherever you can get that novelty. There's lots of research that shows that people that intentionally do that, so like they do crosswords or Sudoku or whatever, it's also like an anti-Alzheimer's thing. But I think we need to all start doing it in an age where the other way people are starting to talk about this. And I think Michelle Mi-Jung Kim, who you should follow, who does amazing stuff on AI. And then also Alex Hanna at Dare talks about friction. Introduce friction into your life and into your day. It saves your brain. It keeps you human. Friction is an important choice to make.
Yeah. Also, like learn something new. I try to learn one new thing. I try to learn one new skill a year. Last year was tennis. I'm still not very good at it. So we're working on tennis. One year I took an adult tap dancing class, which is a story I tell frequently. It was the worst experience of my life. I'm not very good at tap dancing, as I learned. But like every year I try to pick one new thing to learn. And it's like been helping me.
I love that. I love that.
I want a new skill. I might learn to fish this year. That's a whole endeavor I'm on. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, okay.
Not that you have a Hinge profile, but if you did, I want you, like, I need you somewhere holding a fish. Like,
I will
all the basic white
year.
men that I get on my Hinge when I go back to Michigan. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I want that. I want that from you.
I will learn to do that. If I catch a fish, you will guarantee get a picture of me.
I need to be the recipient of that photo.
You first, and then all of social media has to see my fishing skills. We'll see.
Exactly.
We're manifesting it. Okay. If someone in HR wants to start thinking like an ethicist, is that the right way to say that? Ethicist, but has zero formal training and no budget for a Cambridge degree, what is the actual first move?
So I think is getting clear on your values and principles. And let me tell you what that is. So, and I learned this from Dr. Simon Longstaff, who's my boss. He's the ED at the Ethics Center. So your values is what is good. What do you think is good? So harmony or justice or human well-being. Like be clear about what you think good is, because, and be aware that so morality is like kind of our vibes about what is good. It's often so culturally contextual. It can be really personal. And then you need to be clear on the principles about how you achieve your values. So values, what is good, principles, what is right. And ethics is actually a process of decision making. And so what I would say is someone who doesn't know where they start should recognize that they already have a lot of skills to do this. They maybe are just not pointing those skills at particular types of problems, because especially HR folks, like making intentional decisions is kind of the whole job, and scaffolding so that other people can do that too is a lot of the job. And so a lot of ethics is about making choices on purpose. And so that's it, is decide what good is, and then decide the principles against which you adjudicate decisions to get to that good. You already do a lot of that. You just didn't know like you were doing that from maybe an operational perspective or a legal perspective. But the question that's slightly different is what is right? And so you have to kind of decide where you're going first. And then you can look at the problem in front of you and say, what are the factors to consider? And which of these gets me closest to this value based on the principles I've outlined? So, like, a lot of it is actually about building some architecture up front. And then when you're confronted with a particular scenario, applying those principles to the moment, which again, the only difference between that and a basic HR question is that you're asking what is right to do, ideally for humans, as opposed to what is correct to make more money or whatever it is. Like it's the same decision-making process. It's just pointed at a different question.
Yeah. That was a masterclass. The way you broke that down was so beautiful. I was literally taking notes.
This is what I do. No, I mean, I like put so much of my teaching philosophy is actually coming into the room and convincing everyone that they're already really close to being experts.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know
about myself.
Yeah, like I don't know as much about being the CPO at Workweek as you do. I can teach you a set of skills to layer on top of all of the things you're already an expert at. And honestly, like what could possibly be more fun than like getting in the room and watching people like light up and realize that they're already amazing and now they can go do this thing in the world better that they already wanted to do? Like that's the jazziest part of my job.
That's the fun part. This is why we get along, because I do enjoy that too. If you had to tell an HR leader one thing they could start doing differently tomorrow, the next time like AI comes up or they're faced in an AI situation, what would you tell them? I'm so nosy. Nosy. Other than don't put stuff in free ChatGPT or Claude,
don't
please.
Put stuff in free ChatGPT. Oh my gosh. Build your governance framework first. So another thing I can send you for the show notes is kind of a blog I have about my like 5-phase kind of AI adoption approach, which obviously is customized for different orgs. But like setting your governance first and build your governance with your employees. So I really believe in participatory governance. So more kind of democratizing. For example, I'm working with a couple of nonprofits right now to do AI adoption. And the first phase, which is, taking between 3 and 6 weeks, different for different orgs, is that we are presenting a draft policy to the employees that they are allowed to give feedback on. There's an anonymous survey. There's also focus groups and interviews. So there's different ways so that people can feel safe. They can tag their name or not to these feedback mechanisms. But then we will be looping back and showing them the revised policy and governance framework and how their feedback actually influenced the final product.
I love that.
And then they have licenses now so they can play. And the rule is you have to use it in line with the draft policy and we will clearly communicate updates to you. So you have to go with the rules as written, but we're also giving you an explicit window of time to change those rules. And then we will come back to you and be really clear to you about how your feedback changed the rules. And then we will give you the skills, the technical and the ethical skills to use these tools in ways aligned to that mission objective. And the two orgs I'm working with are very different in character in terms of their attitude to AI adoption. One, there's a big chunk of folks who are really anti for like ethical reasons. And I think that's totally legitimate. Let me be clear. And so I was like, look, I am here. Every opinion from I want to become a cyborg to I want to throw a Molotov cocktail at a data center is okay in this session. Like
that range.
Yeah, like that range. Let's start there. But also, these organizations are debating the question about, does an employee have a right to opt out of AI usage? And I think this is really important for HR folks to understand because there's legal precedent for conscientious objection for workplace practices. And I think AI use is going to become increasingly a legal issue in terms of right to opt out. But I think you as an organization should have a clear answer. In one org I'm working with, we're actually making that decision 5 months from now. In that we've built the governance framework, we will have enabled them, we will have let them experiment, then we will consolidate all of the experiments into kind of the approved tools and workflows. And at that point, after we've given employees time to give input, to use the tools to develop their own thoughts and opinions. We will ask them for more input, and ultimately the head of the organization will make that decision about the right to opt out. But at every point, employees will have had a chance to weigh in, and the conditions under which that decision is made will be completely clear and transparent. And it is amazing how much easier it is to get buy-in, because remember, the research shows that Gen Z is sabotaging your AI adoption program because you're doing it poorly. It is so much easier to get adoption when you treat people and their agency with respect. And I actually believe, we haven't finished the project, I actually think those orgs will get productivity and value creation benefits. And it's because they're respectful of the humans that they're doing it with, and they're giving them agency and choice in how they do it. And that is motivating and exciting to people.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have you back, and you're going to have to tell us in 6 months if that's what happens.
Call me in February.
Can't wait.
These two orgs are kind of on the January, February
It's
train.
my birth month, so it can be my birthday. My birthday episode can be you telling us if people really did make productivity gains with
Oh my God. And to be fair, because these are nonprofits, it's actually about do they feel that they're better achieving their mission? That's actually success.
And their missions are probably,
Yeah.
Wow.
And the missions are things that I'm this is useful to the world. This is a meaningful thing to try to do.
So we want them to be successful in this endeavor.
We really want them to be successful. But they're not token maxing because they don't have the money for that. And they also aren't in one org, they do very human-centered things. And so the employees are all a lot of our work is relationship driven. And it's great. We don't want to get rid of that. We want to give you more time to do that.
Yep.
We want to give you more time to invest in those relationships and be the human that's doing the work. And suddenly people go, oh, that's what you're trying to do? I can get on board with that.
Yeah, see?
And it's
This has been so fun. First of all, I wrote down so many notes about the things that you've defined.
I'll email you with some links that you can put. Yeah. So my AI adoption approach, my AI ethics reading list. If folks want to listen to my pod on AI and HR, I'm happy to send them along.
Yes. Yeah. But for people who want to get in touch with you, where's the best?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I scream on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter that goes out weekly about kind of AI, power, and ethics. So people basically want me to curate what I think you should be reading with my commentary. I can give you the link to that. Then my podcast comes out weekly. It's called The Babes, BAI. Our tagline is we're hot and we know stuff. Which may have been a direct reaction to the t-shirt that was I'm too hot to do math. I was I want to be hot and do math.
There's that, I was on mute saying this, that I said everyone wants to be hot, but there's that woman who runs Hot, Smart, Rich. I can't remember what it's called. But I was wow, we're all just putting hot in the title of everything, I guess.
Yeah, that's Madison Butler and I agreed that people treating you well and you treating people well makes you hot. And so maybe that's the advice that I'll give to all HR people is be hot by treating people well.
Agreed.
That's my hot take for the day.
I love that. And we incorporated hot about 16 times at the end of this episode. Okay, so people know how to get in touch with you. You have to come back.
Newsletter, podcast, LinkedIn, my website, all that.
Have to come back for a future episode. And as always, thank you for everything you've taught me to date and continue to teach me. I genuinely was writing about values, morality, drafting my decision-making, governance, all of it.
Yeah. So, and if people don't know how to do that, that's what I'm here for. You're not alone in it, right? We all have to do this together. This is brand new, but we don't have to act brand new.
Everyone's on a journey with AI. And also, please stop listening to people who try to tell you things are black and white when it comes to AI, because they're not. They're not. And We're going to figure it out together. Thank you again for being here. You're the best.
Thanks for tuning in. Keep up with all the latest HR resources by subscribing on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you listen. And if you love I Hate It Here, tell an HR friend. I'll see you next time.